Hi, and welcome to Alpha Praxis. I'm Eric, and this is my wife, Melissa. Today we're going to be covering a little bit of a wide range of topics, but a very uniquely affecting our country group of topics. Outside influences from other countries pushing in on our country and affecting our daily lives. Now, many people are aware of some of these influences, but may not understand to the degree at which they're affecting our citizens and our families. And it's important to be aware of how this is happening and why, and understand that these influences are sometimes a intentional effect to generate a specific effect within our country. And my wife, unlike me, who I spent a lot of time researching different things in the media, she is not as aware, and therefore she would be more commonly uniquely positioned to seem like most people who don't pay constant attention to what's going on all the time, because there are so many other tools from daily life that distract you from being able to just sit down and research news and things of that nature. So it'll be an interesting discussion where we get to discuss from two different points of view how these outside influences can be affecting our country and how it is understood through our eyes and our awareness of what's going on. So once again, thank you, and we appreciate you joining us today. So, Melissa, what do you think currently, from your perspective, is one of the biggest influences from an outside country affecting us today?
I would say the smuggling of fentanyl into our country has the most devastating effects on our citizens.
It's amazing how massively destructive that has been. From age groups 25 to 45, it's the leading cause of death.
And what is it, like a 747, a plane full?
A day of people being killed of overdoses. Mm-hmm. The problem is a lot of people don't understand that fentanyl is being smuggled in. The precursors are produced in China, and then the drug cartels are smuggling it in to our country. And the intent is to destabilize us with regards to creating so many different impacts that our country is so busy dealing with issues of overdosing and other things that we become so weakened that we can't function as a normal society. We're so busy chasing our own tail that we don't ever get to focus on the ball and realize what's going on. What do you think about why a cartel in Mexico would choose to smuggle in drugs that they know are killing their clients?
Doesn't it have to do with something of the influence from China? They're providing it to them, so the cartels are making more money, something like that.
So you mean like they're subsidizing them?
Yeah.
Right. That's what I think is going on, and that's what a lot of evidence seems to point to, is China is subsidizing the cartels to smuggle this in. Mm-hmm. So they get the precursors to the cartel, and then the cartel manufactures anything from Xanax to Adderall to Vicodin and even in cocaine, even in marijuana. And the goal is to insert it so deeply into our society that no matter, even if you're a one-off user of something like an Adderall pill, you're a college kid, and you take an Adderall pill, and you overdose. You had no expectation that that was going to be, and they look completely like legitimate narcotic, like the same type of drug you'd get from a pharmacy.
Mhm.
There's no differentiating them.
So you have to know 100% the source of that, and that's, not really a concern for most young people.
Right.
They don't understand that.
Exactly. I mean, they don't think about that. If they see a pill and it looks and it has the same markings, even if they look it up on the internet on a pill search website, they'll see that it is exactly the same
Mhm.
as what you get from a pharmacy. And so therefore they feel convinced that, this must be a legitimate pill. And unfortunately, anything almost on the street these days is not a legitimate pill from a pharmacy.
Mhm.
And that's not saying that anyone should ever source any type of narcotic. It's just saying that, of course, people do sometimes make bad decisions, and kids especially, and they decide to go out and try to get something. And that doesn't make them a horrible person, and they definitely shouldn't die over it. When I grew up, I'm a lot older than you, I never thought anything like that would happen to anyone I knew. Of course, college kids go and somebody's got an Adderall prescription and they share them with their friends or whatever. Nobody died. Nobody thought anything about that.
Yeah, or even
And
if you got it from a dealer, you never thought, like, I need to make sure that I know where this person got it from.
right, because it looks just like the real pill. I
And it's
mean,
just not even a concern
yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
have.
it's not like it looks bizarre or weird, or it's like, oh, Adderall usually comes in a pill form and this is in some weird gel cap or something.
Mhm.
And that's one of the biggest concerns, is that these kids aren't aware that there is an actual attempt to destroy our country from within. China went through the opium wars, and Great Britain had sourced a lot of opium into their country and destabilized China. And I think it's kind of their same way of reutilizing that philosophy of weakening our country by causing a destructive narcotic to be flooded in and almost destroy our culture and our people. Because, like I said, you don't have to be a drug user, it's not like you're a heroin addict going out looking for fentanyl. You could be a kid that just need to study for finals, and you make a bad decision and decide to buy a Adderall off some kid. And next thing you know, you take that Adderall, and you know your parents end up getting a call from the police department. So it's a really insidious way of creating this very evil manifestation in our country, to where they can really hurt us. Because unfortunately, being a first world country, bordering a lot of other countries that are a huge source of narcotics, our country does have a large narcotic problem. And that's not to say that anyone who uses narcotics is an evil or bad person and they should die, but it's just what it is. We just have money, and we seem to have a lot of stresses, and people choose sometimes to use other ways to avoid things, and they use narcotics. And that doesn't mean they should be given a death sentence. And that's our weakness, is we do buy a lot of narcotics, and they all come mostly from South America. So it's a really big issue, and I don't think Americans know enough about how it's actually designed to kill us. So what do you think is the solution to this? What do you think we should do as a country to try to get past this horrible scourge that's going on with our young people mostly?
I guess just putting more resources into stopping it from coming into the country. I know they're having a hard time juggling the illegal immigration with the importation of fentanyl at the border. So there's probably just not enough resources to handle both at the same time.
I was just watching a podcast, and they were saying that coyotes will be paid to bring immigrants who paid them. They pay the cartel to be brought over by the coyotes. And what they'll do is when they get to the river, there'll be a bunch of immigrants trying to cross the river. And at the same time, the cartel will be trying to smuggle backpacks full of fentanyl into America. And what they'll do is when they cross the border, the immigrants, and they get to the river, they'll put their babies and children on their shoulders. And the coyotes will start pulling the kids off their shoulders and throwing them into the river to encourage Border Patrol to search resources.
Distraction.
To then allow their smugglers to not then be impeded by Border Patrol, because Border Patrol has to surge assets to try to help the children that are being thrown into the river from drowning. And we even had a National Guard soldier die assisting a family to rescue a child that was thrown in, and he drowned. And it took them 5 days to find his body. They're intentionally using our problem with immigration to divert us from paying attention to what's going on. I mean, it's like a shell game. It's like you're convincing someone that look over here, and over here is the problem. And that's what's so difficult, because our country is so loving and kind and genuinely compassionate that our Border Patrol, of course, is going to surge all its assets and do everything it can to save those migrant children in the river, while at the same time there's no one there to watch as 2 backpacks full of enough fentanyl to kill a whole city.
So I guess they're a little bit intertwined, and maybe if we had more resources to combat illegal immigration at places other than the river and other methods, even altogether, that it would also help the fentanyl.
And exactly, and that leads to an almost married issue with regards to another problem: illegal immigration. We have this surge of illegal migrants, and no one can fault them. Most people understand that everybody wants a better life, and there's no reason to live a horrible life in a country where you're not going to be able to survive or get anywhere, and you know that 600 miles away is a border to a country that has amazing opportunity and a lot of wealth and possibilities to create a new life. And so, of course, that would be a draw.
So what do you think is a solution, or another possible solution, to stop the illegal immigration besides right at the border? Or do you think there's any other possible solutions?
I think, one thing America has, I think, failed to do is we spend so much money on so many other countries, and we put so many resources into countries that most people can't even find on a map. I think our biggest concern should have been to have, for decades now, been trying to help stabilize our neighbors to the south and help their countries. It's widely known that if a country has a good economy and a stable government, and the people have ways to make a living that aren't going towards illegal sources or supporting illegal activity or turning a blind eye to illegal activity, and they have confidence in their government to protect them and support them in times of need, that they then are more likely to not engage in leaving their home, because most migrants don't want to leave where their family is there. I mean, many men who migrate here send money back to their families in Mexico or anywhere in South America or Central America. They don't want to leave. They have children there, they have wives there, they have their parents there, they might have grandparents. They probably don't want to leave, but they have to for economic reasons and also stability and fear of different types of illegal activity that they either have to become engaged in or avoid or have something to do with. I think it should have been incumbent on the U.S., since we've decided since the 40s to be nation builders, which is something I don't agree with, but maybe we should spend more time helping our neighbors to the south to stabilize their countries and put more money and resources into helping them establish better systems and ways to encourage them to be more situated in a economic engine where their people are happy to stay there. And it also then creates less of likelihood that cartels are able to flourish if your only option is leave your home, stay and be poor and destitute, or be involved in illegal or cartel activities, even if it's passive activity. What are your options? I mean,
Yeah, and if your government isn't doing, certain things that our government does, like schools and roads and all sorts of stuff, and the cartel is, that's going to prop them up and have people supporting that illegal activity.
yeah, people will totally ignore the government then and think, well, the cartel helps me out, or the cartel helps our neighborhood out.
Mm-hmm.
So when the federal government shows up, it's like, what have you done? You haven't helped us. The cartel's been paving our roads. The cartel built a school. The cartel built that church.
Mm-hmm.
Last Christmas, the cartel brought us stuff. So why are we going to pay attention to you? And that just causes more of an insidious behavior. And it's understood. I mean, if somebody was helping take care of my family and taking care of my children's school, I would probably be very likely to turn a blind eye to some of the things that go on that I wouldn't normally agree with, because I wouldn't want it to stop. I would want them to keep helping because I felt, well, no one else cares about us. And even though it's a fake influence, because it's just done to garner favor and get people to not turn on them, it causes the federal government to have a hard time to then get a foothold and take control of their country.
So do you think if America were to help the federal government in Mexico, for example, they would be able to overthrow the cartels?
Well, I think what it is, you don't overthrow the cartels. I mean, I don't know if you can overthrow the cartels. I think what you do is it'll take a long time, but I think you could slowly whittle down their ability to maintain control and then slowly break their stranglehold on the country, which now it's gotten to a point to where it's almost in every aspect of the country. And I think it would take a long, hard effort and a concerted effort of America to stop supporting so many other countries and really care about the people that are the closest neighbors we have. We don't think about Mexico much because they're not a huge military. They don't have a lot of economic generation. So America is kind of not really paying attention to them. And it's unfortunate because Mexico does have a lot of opportunity and resources, and they have a great number of people that are hard workers and really good people. And if we could encourage the positives and help the government stabilize and feel that they genuinely have control, it's hard for a police officer working in an area that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, that doesn't have a lot of support. We think of everything through American eyes. And when you're doing that, you don't realize that not everywhere is like that, because most Americans don't leave this country. But when you go to someplace in Mexico, you could be a town that's 50 miles away from the next town. And if you have the cartel in that area, how can't the police be corrupted? I mean, if they're going to subsidize you with money and tell you, don't worry about what you see, and the threat of violence, so I can get money or I can possibly get killed. I mean, what would you pick? I mean, obviously, but if they have opportunity, resources to assist in supporting them and help them and give them economic opportunities that were genuine, they'd be less likely to be as easily controlled by basically a terrorist organization as the cartel seems to be, because they are engaging in government influence and changing people's government view, and that's terrorism through violence. So I think that would have been the best opportunity that America could have done, is help Mexico become stable, and then we work with Mexico to go farther south, and then just keep going until South America is at least getting their cartel problems under control, and their government's able to take back their streets, and their police aren't as corruptible, and they're not falling victim. Even in America, some police are corrupted. I mean, that happens. I mean, you can't ever stop it. But the reason why it doesn't take hold here is because we have so many layers of checks and balances on things that even if it does happen in a neighborhood or a town or a city, it seems to be quickly weeded out over time, because there's so many overwatches and people that aren't corrupted keeping an eye on what's happening. So when people have a cop in one of our cities that you can tell is not playing by the rules, there are people they can call, and then an investigation will occur, and it'll be stopped pretty quickly. So yeah, I just think we should have, I think that's one thing America has kind of failed to do. And we have the resource and the money, and it would be, I think, welcomed by the Mexican people to help them.
And then the benefits would be twofold, because Mexican people it would be a better place to live, so they would be less likely to want to come to America.
Of course.
And also the cartels wouldn't have such a stronghold, so they wouldn't be sending as much fentanyl in.
Right.
Hopefully.
We don't have Canadians flooding into America. I mean, with even the open borders right now, they can, but we don't have a surge of Canadians coming here. I mean, hockey isn't turning out to be our number one sport. So, I mean, it would be common sense that you try to get Mexico to move into a place where, when you have symbiotic economic situations between countries where they're both kind of equal, people don't feel the desire to leave their home.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. We have a country that's suffering and in destabilized conditions to our south, and we have almost a symbiotic country to our north. And that's why I don't think I've ever run into somebody that said I moved here from Canada. Maybe once in my life. I mean, it's not something you hear often, because they might move here because maybe they like the weather better. I wouldn't like to live in Canada. It seems very cold. But
or maybe some of the new laws too.
Yeah, Trudeau. Yeah. So what do you think about what's going on in Canada?
I think their freedoms are slipping away, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing is after COVID, we kind of saw how quickly people can be corrupted. I think we saw how quickly people can be turned against their countrymen.
Well, fear is a destabilizer.
And a motivator.
And divides.
Yeah, but I mean, people are motivated by two things: money and fear. Probably more than almost anything else. If you're afraid, you're willing to take the side of who is saying they're going to help you and protect you and take care of you, and you're willing to give in a lot of your wills and laws and freedom for somebody saying, "I'll get you, I'll take care of you. Don't worry, I got your back. I'll take care of you."
I think that's why the media was pushing so hard on all the trying to scare you on everything that's happening with when COVID first came out.
Well, that speaks to even a scarier problem, because why would the media be so encouraged to scare their own population into creating this unbelievable fear of something that may or may not have been designed and engineered in China, something that came to us from China that seemed so uniquely manifested that it created a worldwide panic where people freely gave up their rights. They weren't able to go to church. Kids couldn't go to school. We were forced to wear masks. People were forced to stay home. I mean, it was almost draconian what happened in this country so quickly and easily.
And I think it's a good practice to look at the information that you're receiving, whether it's from the media or wherever else, and say, what are the motivations of this?
And that's what I think a lot of people forget to do. And I think that's one of the biggest worries about our society right now with everything that's going on. I think people have so many things on their plate. They go to work, kids go to school, they're taking care of their kids with soccer practice or football practice or baseball or track or tennis or whatever they're doing. That people don't have the time to pay attention to all the chaos, because right now in our world it seems to be a lot of chaos, especially with now Israel and Iran and the Houthis and Hamas, and it just seems to be a nonstop.
Just so overwhelming too. I mean, if you just get to the point where you feel so overwhelmed, you don't even want to learn anymore.
Yeah, I think it causes a shutdown. I think it causes a shutdown where people think, well, what can I do? I mean, because it's just spiraling out of control. You got Ukraine, Russia, you've got all these things going on at the same time, our southern border, the things I just mentioned. I think it causes a really sense of people just wanting to shut down and close off and just say, you know what, I can't deal with this. It's the economy, it's the environment, it's everything is hitting them all at the same time. And then you have natural disasters. And it's just really difficult for people, I think, to focus and center on understanding where to put their time. Because between all of their normal daily responsibilities, how are they able to then think, okay, so now what should I care about? Should I care about the environment? Should I care about abortion? Should I care about fentanyl? Should I care about, where should I put my time? And that's something that I think is our biggest weakness too, is that we're overwhelmed with so many things right now happening in the world that we are becoming so distracted that we're starting to close off into our little bubble and say, you know what, I can't even deal with it anymore. I can't handle it. It's just, there's nothing I can do. The world's going to hell and I am done. I just need to take care of my family. And the bad thing about that is, go on, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, so what do you think, as an individual who's receiving information from being bombarded with this stuff from all angles, what do you think? How do you think you should handle it? And what do you think the most effective thing that you can do just as an individual living in America to maybe have some influence in your world?
I think the most important thing is to, first off, you have to take care of your family. You have to take care of yourself and your family. If you don't have a family, yourself, and if you have a family, your family. You have to identify what are the biggest risks to your family. You start at home. 40% of almost all pills being sold on the street are laced with fentanyl. And that's a scary amount. That's literally almost like flipping a coin to see if you're going to be getting fentanyl or not. Actually, the numbers are higher. I think the DEA assessed that 40% of the fake pills being sold on the street have enough fentanyl to kill somebody. So you're literally playing Russian roulette. And that, if you have a family and children, kids of, teenagers and stuff, that'd be my first concern, I think, to stabilize your worries. Because as a parent, your first concern is going to be what's going on in your home. Your first concern is going to be what's happening with your children. You have to worry when they go to school, are they going to get a pill you're going to find them dead in the morning in their bedroom? I mean, that would scare me to death. And then once you're able to stabilize your home and your family, then you're able to look at the external concerns that you have. And I think looking into politicians more in depth and understanding what their cares are, what they're about, what their interests are, and electing politicians that are interested in supporting the things that will keep you, your family, and your country safe, while not subjecting yourself to giving up your rights, not giving into this fear of, oh, I don't want this to happen. So if they're going to just take these rights away, well, that's okay. I don't do that. So that's all right. And that's the problem. We get so scared that's what happened with COVID. Everybody got so afraid. They started giving up their rights left and right because they were so worried about COVID that they just laid down and rolled over, and the government just steamrolled everybody. And then we find out that it's not even that bad, and most of the problem was they were putting people on ventilators and killing them. So that was the biggest problem. Once we learned about that, and then we stopped putting people on ventilators, and the death rate dropped.
So would you say it's important to also source your information from different places, not just, the mainstream media?
That's a great point. You definitely should not look at just one source. You should definitely look at many different sources and challenge your views. Don't get caught in a bubble that you just are in an echo chamber, you're getting confirmation bias. If all I want to hear is this politician is the best politician because that's who I like, and all I do is watch things that talk about what a great politician he is or she is, then I'm not learning anything. I should look to other news sources, look online at alternative views from other podcasts and news sources, and find out what other views are there. Is this true? Is this real? But people like their echo chambers and they like being caught. And that's what makes us weak as well and fail, because we love to hear our confirmation confirmed, our biases reaffirmed.
So we should talk to people who we know it's a safe environment to talk to, but also who have different views than us, so that we can hear, what their views are. And that can also strengthen your point of view, because now you know what the other side of the argument is, and you can.
Exactly. You should always challenge your views. Yes. Yeah. I mean, challenging your viewpoints is not a bad thing, and it shouldn't create arguments. People should be able to discuss this in a calm, orderly, normal fashion, because you shouldn't be threatened by having someone challenge your position. And if you can't explain your position effectively to convince the other person, and it makes you feel uncomfortable because you feel now unsure about yours, then maybe you need to reevaluate your position.
And if it makes you angry to hear a different side, maybe you should realize that your views have been, you've learned them through your emotions being manipulated.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of people are trying to do in this modern day and age. And that's also a lot of external influence, is they're trying to, with the use of TikTok and other social media sites, external countries are trying to influence our country into seeing things that are a bigger issue than they are. There are a lot of things that are going on in our culture and society right now that aren't as big of a deal as they're being made out to be. But when you're bombarded with something over and over and over again, you tend to believe that that's huge. That's the biggest issue in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. I don't run into a lot of people that are worried about their pronouns. I don't run into a lot of people that are worried about whether or not they're going to have their right to marry a same-sex partner be challenged. Most people are very rational and understand that that's not on the table and a threat. And the media and external sources through TikTok and these other social media apps tend to make it so overwhelming that people think that this is happening all over and they just by chance didn't run into it. When in reality, 90% of all people don't care, and they don't want anyone to suffer or be upset, and they want everybody to have their rights and marry who you want and do what you want. They just, that's why the saying exists: my rights end where your rights begin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we as a culture should remember that and live in that way, and not be subjected to this feeling that we always have to beat everybody around us into submission. It's okay for someone to have a different point of view. You don't have to anger yourself over somebody differentiating their views from yours.
And maybe it's more exciting that if you do have a different point of view from someone, that you can find common ground. and maybe to talk about that and to find the common ground
And
to
that's
be
the
the
thing.
objective.
And that's the thing. Americans all, whether you're from Mexico or Iran or Poland, Americans, once you become an American, we all kind of have the same concerns. We all want to live a good life. We all want to support our families and have a happy life with our families. We all want to raise our kids and enjoy the time that we get with them. We all want to live in a safe environment. We don't want to be threatened by violence or the threat of violence.
And
we
have
want
enough money to survive. And
to
be
not
worried.
stress over it for our kids if you want to send them to college or they want to go to a trade school or they want to go off into the world and just start trying to find their own way, but to be able to help them if they need help. That's almost a universal feeling among every family and every person in this country. And we all care about other people. There are very few Americans that are isolationists that just say, you know what, everybody else can go away. I don't care. We all care. And that's what makes us so over the top sometimes in the way that we behave with each other, because we become so emphatic with our beliefs and our way of thinking that we don't see the ability to realize that the person you're talking to probably agrees with everything you're saying 60, 70, 80, 90% of the time. And the other percent are probably such minor issues that realistically, the other percentage of the issues you agree on are probably those base issues that are vital to your life. They're the most important. The other ones are usually just like eccentric issues. They're like the extras. Mm-hmm. They're the niceties that come with life.
The frosting on the cake.
Yeah. And, that's what we don't realize is that we are all very similar and we need to take the tone down, stop letting external influences trick us into believing that we are all against each other and we don't have common ground and we don't understand each other. And we all understand each other. And we need to
stop demonizing one side of political views.
Right. I mean, most people agree, like I said, probably almost 80, 90% on everything. The big thing is we need to put our energy into worrying about how to keep our country safe, how to keep us all healthy, how to keep us all safe from fentanyl, how to keep us all safe from, we're sending our money to Ukraine and we're not caring about our veterans on the streets. We have tent cities where we have people living in tents and shooting up fentanyl and dying in their tent. And we're not even looking at that. We're stepping over people and not even thinking about it while we're so worried about the environment and Ukraine and what's going on in countries that most people can't even find on a map. I'm not saying anyone should be worried about being an isolationist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we just need to put more focus on our country as well, because if we fall, then a lot more is going to go wrong than just what's happening now. If America falls, we aren't going to be a good world, because America, no matter what you think, is a force for good. It is. Americans do care about the world, and we have, throughout our history, put a lot of other countries as a big concern, and we've worried about them and taken care of them and held them up when they've fallen. After World War II, we rebuilt most of Europe. I mean, we care, and we didn't just do it. A lot of people have cynical views about everything we do is because it's for some ulterior reason. And a lot of times it is, but a lot of times it's not. And that's why Americans don't have a problem with helping Israel or helping Ukraine or helping other countries that most people don't even know we send money to. We just are willing to do it because from our tax money, because we care and we don't want other countries to suffer. But if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't focus on paying attention to other countries dividing us and turning us into a cesspool and letting us fall, then a lot more is going to fall before it gets better. They say Rome didn't fall in a day. Well, America won't fall in a day, but we're slowly crumbling, and you see the cracks. And people need to start paying more attention instead of fighting with each other. to learn how to come together, to help one another, bring each other up. Instead of yelling at someone because of their abortion beliefs, maybe worry about their kid who just passed away from a fentanyl overdose. And worrying about somebody who just had a child raped by an illegal immigrant, maybe, and yelling at them because they don't support illegal immigration. Maybe we ought to have compassion and think maybe we should have a better immigration system, but also close our border and not keep people away, but definitely have a more organized way of allowing immigration.
I think a lot of people get that confused, legal versus illegal, and they're thinking like, oh, you don't want anybody to come in this country.
Right, and that's the problem. Yeah, people do. What they do is once you say, I don't want illegal immigration, I want to close the border, they think that means that you don't want any foreigner in your country. You're a xenophobe. And that's not the case. It's just no one should want to be swarmed by people that they haven't vetted or understood why they're coming. And what they don't realize is that's another issue. A lot of countries are sending, and it is true, a lot of people think it's a talking point. It's not. A lot of countries have emptied their prisons and told them, if you come back to this country, you will be executed. And they've sent them to America. And we are getting almost all fighting age men. The children and women are being sex trafficked. Look at the videos of the lines of people waiting to come into the country, miles long. Almost none of them are women, especially teenage women. You won't see almost any teenage girls. And they're being sex trafficked. It's because the cartels are pulling them off and they're being used and sex trafficked. And these people are being brought here because they've been forced out of prisons. The women have been raped. The children have been raped. The children have been sex trafficked. America is becoming a huge despot of sex trafficking. And it's really sad because our compassion is almost becoming a weakness for the cartels to abuse us and utilize us to abet sex trafficking. And we're having teenage girls being put through our country and disappearing, and children. We've lost track of 80-some thousand children that nobody knows where they are that have come through the border. That's insane. And this is all an act intentionally done by other countries and the cartels to utilize our kindness and our open heart and our weakness for turning people away because we don't want people to suffer. And that's a great thing. But kindness shouldn't create weakness and ignorance. We need to utilize our heart to also create a good way to oversee our immigration. I think most Americans would be all for people that apply for asylum and having a government way to fly them into our country so they don't have to go through coyotes. I mean, this whole thing of an app to allow people into our country that they just go online and fill out the information and then they just walk right in and they're basically given a visa. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's a great way for cartels to be able to utilize it for smuggling people into our country. I mean, you don't even have to be coming in with a parent. You can say you have an uncle that lives in Chicago and they'll send you there. They don't even do DNA checks or anything. They've had multiple men carry young women over the border, not carry, but bring over young women through the border. And the same person says that they're their father. And they go back across the border and then get another woman and bring her back. And these women then are sent off to different cities where they're sex trafficked.
And it's not fair to those people who wait and do it the right way, do it the legal way.
Of course. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, people are waiting sometimes many years to get approval. Even spouses of somebody that's already been here, they have to wait sometimes 10 years to get their ability to come to America. And they wait and they do it and they're separated. And because they don't have a land border, they're just stuck. And here we have all these people that are just abusing the system, and our country is kind of not doing anything about it. We have sex trafficking going crazy, and people are here legally are just sitting around going, why does my family have to wait when we're trying our best to do it the legal way, but these people just get to walk across and you're letting them in? And it's not appropriate because it sends the wrong message. It rewards people for breaking the law, and it penalizes people for obeying the law.